Lucy, this is not the first Wuthering Heights film adaptation, and it's not the first to cause a bit of controversy, but Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights has been in cinemas now for a little over a week. Based on box office numbers and certainly the TDA office, many people have gone to see it. Based on the hype around this film online, many people want to see it. But for those who haven't yet gotten there, or maybe those who've never read the original novel, what do we need to know about Wuthering Heights?
I'll start with some kind of biographical data first. So Wuthering Heights was published in 1847. It was written by Emily Brontë. It was her only novel to be published, and she died the following year, aged 30.
Wow.
Emily was one of the famous literary Brontë sisters. Her sister Charlotte wrote Jane Eyre, one of my personal favourite books, and her sister Anne wrote The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which is an early feminist novel. Now, in terms of Wuthering Heights more specifically, the novel is set on the moors of Yorkshire, which is actually where the Brontes grew up. This is a region of low rolling hills, wide vistas, grassy expanses.
Yep.
In those days, they would have been fairly uninterrupted for long stretches by buildings and roads in the way that they kind of are now. This setting is used to great effect in the novel, which is set entirely in two houses that are just a couple of kilometres apart, actually in walking distance, but one is not visible from the other and on the moors. As I said, the novel was published in 1847, but it's set actually earlier. It's set ranging from the 1770s to the 1800s.
Right.
And that timing is important because that actually leads us to the first controversy surrounding Fennell's adaptation. And that's because this is a time period, 1770s to the early 1800s, where just 100 kilometres away from where the Brontes grew up is the town of Liverpool, which was a major trading port and specifically Britain's main slave trading port before Britain outlawed slavery.
Okay, so an important plot detail that we will get to, because this is where the discussions around casting come in, specifically about Jacob Elordi being in this new film. I've heard the phrase whitewashing to talk about this casting. Can you unpack that controversy first?
Yeah, so with this new film directed by Emerald Fennell, who has also directed Promising Young Woman and Saltburn, she's cast Margot Robbie, who she worked with as a producer on Saltburn and Promising Young Woman, and Jacob Elordi, who appeared in Saltburn. He was one of the leads. So Jacob Elordi was born in Australia and he has Basque heritage. That's a people from the western border of Spain and France.
Okay.
He is white, like almost every actor who's ever been cast to play the role of Heathcliff. And that's including people like Laurence Olivier and Ray Fiennes. One exception was in 2011 that was directed by Andrea Arnold, and that starred Black British actor James Howson.
Okay, but why is that significant, Lucy? Like the character of Heathcliff, who has historically in these adaptations been cast as predominantly white men.
Yeah.
Why does that matter? What does the original text tell us about that character?
Yeah, so it comes back to that Liverpool point that I mentioned and the slave trade. So the novel centres on Heathcliff's relationship with a woman named Catherine Earnshaw. They meet as children when Heathcliff is brought back to her family's cottage by Catherine Earnshaw's father, who says that he's got him from Liverpool. And he's described as dark-skinned, and Brontë uses other terms historically applied to marginalised groups, including the Roma community and South Asian sailors. At one point, a character says he could be an American or Spanish castaway. So the Liverpool connection, the physical description of the character of Heathcliff, along with other aspects that we're not a literary analysis podcast, so we're not going to get into it. But it has often informed scholarly interpretations that Heathcliff is not white. But I should say that this is not like a settled point in academic literature because few things are.
Okay, but there are plenty of signs that point to Heathcliff not being white, and I don't think you need to be a literary scholar to interpret it as such.
Yeah.
So that all being said, Jacob Elordi is one of that line of actors cast in these adaptations who is white.
Yeah.
So what has the response been to the Heathcliff of 2026?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, some people have described this as whitewashing, including content creator and author Emily Brontë, who said Heathcliff's, quote, racial otherness causes him to be the subject of a lot of racialized violence and dehumanization. She said, by casting Jacob Elordi, a white man, you are entirely erasing that plot. And author Maniza Hussain said on X, quote, I'm rereading Wuthering Heights in preparation for the movie, and it's so obvious Heathcliff is non-white. The other characters are bigoted against him because of his race. The book doesn't make sense if you think he's white.
Okay, so some quite strong reactions to Elordi's casting.
Yeah.
Have we heard from the actual cast of Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights? Have they responded to this criticism?
So we've heard from people on the creative team. We've heard from Fennell, who said that Jacob Elordi, quote, looked exactly like the illustration of Heathcliff on the first book that I read of Wuthering Heights. Mm-hmm. And the film's casting director, Carmel Cochran, also defended the choice. Back in April 2025, she said, quote, just wait till you see it. You really don't need to be accurate. It's just a book that is not based on real life. It's all art.
Hi, I'm Zara. I'm the co-founder of the Daily Aus, and we started this company because we think news can be done differently. If you agree, you can hit subscribe. It's the best way to help us grow. Now, back to the video.
Okay, so that's basically everything we need to know about this casting controversy, but I want to move on to this other controversy surrounding a necklace worn by Margot Robbie at one of the film premiere events.
Yeah.
What is going on here? What do we need to know about this necklace?
So at one of the many premiere events for this film, this one in Los Angeles, Margot Robbie wore a necklace that she identified as having been owned by old Hollywood icon Elizabeth Taylor before the jewelry house Cartier. Robbie told Vogue the $8 million necklace in US dollars had, quote, a lot of romantic history and felt appropriate for the event.
And also a bit of context about Elizabeth Taylor, old Hollywood legend who was known for her very impressive and vast jewellery collection, right?
Yeah. Her diamonds and her love affairs. She had many and they were all iconic.
And many husbands.
Yes, 8 to be exact.
Rest in peace, Elizabeth Taylor.
Truly.
Okay, but that's not painting the full picture of the origins of this necklace, is it?
It's not, yeah. So this necklace does actually have a lot of history reaching back to 17th century India. It features a diamond pendant. That's really the crucial part of it. It's often called the Taj Mahal diamond. Mm-hmm. It was first given by Emperor Jahangir to his wife, Empress Noor Jahan, and was passed down through the family. The diamond was engraved with Noor Jahan's name and the phrase Lady of the Padshah. The couple's son then gave it to his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, whose death inspired the construction of the Taj Mahal, leading to the diamond getting its name.
Right. So interesting. So we're talking 400 plus years ago.
Yeah. In the 1970s, the New York Times reported the pendant had been brought from India by a woman named Rose Marie Kenmore. Her husband at the time owned Cartier, the jewelry house.
Okay, I was wondering how Cartier got involved in all of this.
Yeah, so she went on a gemology trip to India and she brought it back.
Right.
Yeah. Cartier then put the diamond on a metal necklace. It had previously been on a silk cord. Mm-hmm. And then Richard Burton purchased the necklace for Elizabeth Taylor, then his wife. I believe that was the first time that they were married of the two times. Mm-hmm. Cartier put that package together and that's what we now see on Margot Robbie's neck.
Okay. Can you unpack a little bit about why it was so controversial to see that necklace on Margot Robbie, but also to hear her kind of reference its history as an important piece of jewelry in Hollywood to Elizabeth Taylor rather than touching on its cultural significance?
Yeah, so she said it had a lot of romantic history, but as far as we're aware, she didn't get into the specifics. In a post to Instagram, Indian designer and fashion historian Mayan Kraj Singh raised some concerns. He said the diamond, quote, did not migrate, it was removed. A jewel born of Indian soil, Indian hands, and Indian history, it travelled west and was reborn as spectacle. Decades later, it reappeared on Margot Robbie. No one asked why it continues to orbit Western necks while remaining unreachable to Indians. And he also made reference to, in this post to Instagram, a controversy from the 2025 Met Gala, which also included a necklace and Cartier.
Yeah, this is a really interesting interesting aspect of the whole story. It kind of adds another layer to it. We've got Elizabeth Taylor, Margot Robbie, Wuthering Heights, and now the Met Gala has entered the chat.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So Cartier owns a necklace. I mean, Cartier has many, many things in its collection. One of those pieces is a necklace originally made for Bhupinder Singh, who was the Maharaja, or sort of ceremonial leader of the state of Patiala in 1928. The brand loaned a piece of this necklace to the influencer Emma Chamberlain to wear to the 2022 Met Gala.
Okay.
And then in 2025, the Times of India reported Cartier had denied a request to loan the necklace to Punjabi singer Diljit Dosanjh for that year's event, citing, quote, museum conditions.
Okay, so we've got another piece of jewellery of important cultural significance, heritage in India, somehow ends up in the hands of Cartier, the famous jewellery house. And now there's this strange precedent where a white influencer was allowed to access it for the Met Gala in 2022.
Yeah.
But a Punjabi singer was not allowed to access it when they requested it just a few years later.
Yeah, according to reporting from the time, yeah.
Wow. Lucy, thank you so much for unpacking all of that for us. So much history and some important context for everyone to think about if they are going along to see the movie or revisiting the book or just, following along with the Wuthering Heights hype in general. Thank you for explaining that to us.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. We'll be back with the headlines a little later on today. Until then, have a good one.